We're going to continue with some of the shilas that we started yesterday. Yesterday we started some Gavaldige shilas, some interesting ideas in Ribbis. Once again, for us to be able to go through every single shaila that's nagei to Ribbis would take us 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, be'ian, which would be a wonderful thing to do, but we have so much more to accomplish in the sugya of halacha in the workplace that we're trying to go through Be'ez Hashem. I think we're holding by like share 27 or something like that in this series, which is Gavaldik, Baruch Hashem. So we're continuing the sugya of Ribbis. Yesterday we started the sugya, and as we mentioned yesterday, the idea of Ribbis, the Gemara tells us very clearly, anyone that ever opened up a Gemara Bob Metzia, Ezenesha, it's quite clear that the sugya of Ribbis means agonota, which means I'm waiting for my money. And because I'm waiting for my money, therefore I'm going to charge you something extra for that. That is the side of Ribbis. I'm charging interest for the money that I lent you. And it applies, as we said yesterday, to so many situations. It applies to a yeshiva bacha lending money to somebody else, and he gives him back something as hakoros hatov, even if it's not money, it's a present. It applies to someone lending money in a different country when they're traveling, and then he gives it back in a different currency. What happens in between if it went up and down in the market value? It happens to be nogeya to businesses that lend money, of course, cash advance and all those sorts of things. It happens to be nogeya to all sorts of shilas when you have credit, when you buy things on credit, when stores are offering incentives and discounts and all sorts of ideas of how to buy things at a cheaper price for quicker delivery, before delivery, after delivery, on credit, banks, tons of shilas. It just applies to so much. So yesterday we gave a few of the klolim. Today I want to go through just a couple more things, and we'll leave it at that, because again, otherwise Einad Soif will never get anywhere. So one of the shilas that the Olim were asking yesterday was an interesting kasha, and we'll just start with that. We said yesterday, what happens if you give back the very same thing that you borrowed? Then there is no shaila of ribbis, meaning then I'm allowed to return that item with something else. So the example that we gave was borrowing a car. I'm borrowing a car from somebody, and I'm going to, as hakoros hatov, I'm going to give him a bottle of wine as hakoros hatov. Thank you so much for your car that you lent me. Here's a bottle of wine. Ribbis. The answer is there's no ribbis. Why? Because the car is one shtick, it's one chayfet, and I'm giving back the very same chayfetz that I borrowed. Mimela, there's no ribbis. So the Olam asked, but what about the gas? Meaning, when you borrowed the car originally, you borrowed it, for example, with half a tank of gas, and then when you give it back, you're giving it back, if you fill it up more, then I'm giving it back with 3/4 of a tank of gas. Is that considered to be ribbis or not? So the Svarim HaKadoshim, the post can bring down that is not a shaila of ribbis. The reason being, unless there was a stipulation made, but generally there isn't, if there's no stipulation made, there's no shaila of ribbis. Why? Because when I fill up the car with gas, what am I doing it for? I'm not doing it as the gas that you gave me. I'm not returning more gas because you gave me gas. I'm returning the gas because you gave me the car. So therefore, als hakoros hatov, for the car that you gave me, I'm going to fill up with a little bit more because I have appreciation, but not for the gas that you gave me. Mimela, because of that, there's no shaila of ribbis when I give back the car, even though I filled it up with more gas. Now, this is an interesting question. What happens if, guy lent me $100, I give him $100 back, and I can't give him a present. I can't give him another $10. I can't give him, a bottle of wine, a box of chocolates, whatever it is, als hakoros hatov, because that's considered to be ribbis. What about the next day? Can I give him a present the next day? Is that okay? Am I allowed to do it then? Or is it only at the time that you actually are giving back the money? So there's something called, and again, Rabbi say, huge sugyas, huge nafkaminas. There's something called ribbis mu'ucheres. Ribbis mu'ucheres means that even if you are going along to repay someone more than they lent you after you gave it back, that would be a problem. Which would mean, theoretically, if somebody gives you $100 to borrow, and you give them back $100, and you don't say anything, you don't do anything, give $100 back, no ribbis, everything's gavaldik. The next day, you rock up with a whole present. And you say, thank you so much for the loan, I appreciate, thank you what you did for me, that's a beautiful loan, thank you for the $100. Again, $100 maybe not so negeya, but in businesses, people are borrowing $100,000, $500,000. A guy gives you $500,000 to start a business, and Baruch Hashem, the business makes money, you're very happy. He helped you, he enabled you. So when you give him back the $500,000, and these are ma'aseh b'chol yom, by the way, you give him back the $500,000, you want to show some hakoros hatov. So I understand, I can't give him $500,000 plus $1,000. That I can't do. But I can give him $500,000 today, and tomorrow I'll give him a fancy voucher for a restaurant meal. Right? What's the problem? It wasn't at the same time. The answer is that's called Ribbis mu'ucheres. It's Ribbis that's delayed, right? There's also Ribbis mukdemes. That means if I know someone has a lot of money to lend and I want to make sure that he's going to lend me the money, so I can't. The priest can speak about buying him an aliyah in shul. I can't buy him an aliyah in shul. And then he's like, oh wow, this guy, who is this guy? He never buys me aliyah in my life. He's not a guy that always buys aliyahs for people. That may be mutter. We're talking about someone that never buys aliyahs for anybody. All of a sudden he's buying a very choshev aliyah. He spent $1,000 in aliyah. The guy's like, wow, that's so nice of you. The next day he comes to the office and says, can I have a loan? That's Ribbis mukdemes. That means he gave the extra before the loan. That would also be also, by the way, with of course many restrictions. Ribbis mu'ucheres means I borrowed the money, I paid it back, and then I give something afterwards in that case over there. Now again, there's a lot of different shilas over here. When the Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Balatanya and others bring down that if it's a small thing that people often give to other people give presents to people, whatever it is, and it happens afterwards, and there is no mention of the loan, then it would be mutter. So in other words, if not at the time of paying back, but after the time of paying back, I give the guy a small present and I do not mention it is because of what you lent me, very important in condition, then that would be mutter in that case over there. Now, one of the big shilas with Ribbis, which could be negeya in a regular home, is people borrowing things from each other, right? All the time, people are borrowing potatoes and they're borrowing onions and they're borrowing flour and sugar. How makbid do they have to be in order to pay something back? So, Be'etzim, the Gemara talks about this, and the Gemara used the lashon of Talmidei Chachamim, which many of the Mefarshim explain it to mean only a Talmud Chacham that lend from each other. They don't have to be so makbid how they pay things back because they understand what Ribbis is, and it means that they would never be over on Ribbis because they know the halachas, because they're Talmidei Chachamim, and therefore it must be that they're giving it as a matana. So Taka only applies generally according to most poskim to a Talmud Chacham. But if you've got neighbors, regular normal people that are borrowing from each other, so you have to know, you don't have to be makbid ad hasoif. In other words, I don't have to weigh the potato to make sure that when I give him back the potato, it's of the same weight. But of course, if I borrow 2 eggs, I cannot give him back 3 eggs. That's a davar poshet ad ma'od, right? That's poshet. Or for example, if he only uses, I don't know, in America they have different sizes of eggs also? Yeah. They do? They do? Okay, fine. So then you have medium, small and large, right? Small, medium, large? Very good. So if I borrow a medium egg and I only use large eggs in my house, I don't have to go out and buy now a medium egg. I can have a large egg. It's not a big deal because you understand that's what I have in my house, that's what I bought, that's what I use, and therefore I can do that. That's not a problem for a person to do that. Especially, say, the poskim. If you have neighbors, and this is very often here in Eretz Yisrael, where you're borrowing the whole time, you're haimish with each other, sometimes you don't even pay each other back. Very often you don't even pay each other back. So if that's the case, that you hardly pay each other back, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, you're moichel, it's basically a matana. So if it's matana anyway, so then you for sure don't have to be makbid in that case. But again, you don't generally always have to be makbid on exactly what they gave you, but you should give be'erech and not just give more, because of other that you cannot do. You borrow 2 potatoes, you can't give back 3. One of the boys asked the following shaila. What happens? You are borrowing money from somebody and he lends you 19 shekel. Right? You're in a store, I needed to borrow 19 shekel for food, that's what I wanted to have. Very good. Now, I want to pay him back, I give him 20 shekel. So now I'm giving him extra shekel. Do I have to say, I want the shekel back? Because the mice, I borrowed 19, I have to pay back 19. How am I allowed to go along and give him an extra shekel in this case? So the Minchas Yitzchak has a whole tshuva on this in Chelik Tes, and the Minchas Yitzchak writes that an insignificant amount that is obvious why you're doing it is mutar. Now everybody understands when you're giving someone a 20 shekel bill, and if he gave you 10 shekel and you're giving him 20 or 15 and 20, so then maybe not. But if you're talking about 19 shekel or 19.5, whatever it may be, I don't want the agarot in my pocket, I'm not interested, so then it's obvious that I'm doing it not because of ribbis. I'm not doing it to pay you back more than what you lent me. I'm doing it because I posher cannot be bothered to have the change in my pocket, and that's what I'm doing, and therefore that would be mutter in that case. Again, what the examples are, you're going to have to figure out. It's not in every single case, because you have to realize that in certain cases you are doing it because of the loan. But if you're only doing it because of the change, then it would be mutter in that case. Now there's something called Ribbis Tvarim. Okay, Rabbi said we're flying through many different halachos all in one shot. Ribbis Tvarim means that there's even ribbis with your mouth. You can even say something that would constitute something to be ribbis. And this comes from the Gemara in Bab Metzia Daf Ayin Hey Amud Beis, where the Gemara says, "Menayin lenoisa b'chaveir mona." How do you know if you owe someone a mona? Ve'einu rogel lahakdim lo shalom. And generally, you never say hello to this guy. She'asa lahakdim lo shalom. It's also for you to say hello. We're not talking about when you always say hello to the guy. Then of course you can continue saying hello to the guy. We're talking about when you generally don't say hello to him. When you don't gesture, you don't say a nice thing, whatever it may be. And all of a sudden now he lent you money. So now you're going to say hello. Because now he lent you money. And he lent you a lot of money. You have a lot of a korasatov to the guy. Right? So often the Gemara, that there's something called Ribbis Devarim. According to the Ran in Psachim, it's a Durabonon. It's not a Da'araisa. The Chachma Sodom passes this way as well. In Kuf Lamed Aleph in that case. Now it's important to note that Birkei Yosef says that's only when can you not say something, when can you not say a gesture or a thank you, that's only B'shas Maisa that he gives you the money. But after you paid back the loan, then it's mutter. So in other words, he gives you $100, you give him $100 back, then you can say thank you for what you did for me. That's okay. But Kolzman, you've got the money in your hand that he lent you, then it's also the Birkei Yosef. Then it's also for a person to say hello. Now here the kasha is it really also to say the word thank you? Like seriously, like a guy gives you 20 shekel, I'm just in the store, I haven't got any money for you, can I borrow 20 shekel? This happens all the time. So he gives you 20 shekel, what do you say? As a normal, polite human being, you say, thank you. Is that really us? Are you telling me that's Ribbis? Is that really a Shaila of Ribbis? So Reb Shlomo Zalman talks about this by Riches, and he wants to say, by the way, there's no Makar for the thank you specifically. Shulchan Aruch, the Balatanya brings it, a whole arichas about it. Reb Shlomo Zalman has a tshuva, and Reb Shlomo Zalman wants to taina that it's absolutely mutter. It's called derech eretz. So it's a normal thing that people say is thank you. No one has kavanah for ribbis. No one has kavanah to add something to the loan. Maybe when a guy gives you a shekel, you're like, Reb Moshe, by the way, Reb Moshe writes in tshuvas, in Yeridei Chelik Aleph Siman Pei, look it up, Reb Moshe is machmeh, and holds, no, you cannot say thank you. Even though it's thank you, you're not allowed to say thank you in that case, unless again you've already repaid back the loan and you no longer have the money, then that would be okay over there. Rabbi Sai, there's something called a heter iska. You'll go into a bank, for example, here in Eretz Yisrael, you'll see it all the time. You go onto the bank and you see on the wall something called a heter iska, right? No real makor in the Gemara for this, but this is something that many businesses rely on in order to charge quote unquote ribbis. Okay, this is very negay. You buy an apartment, for example, here in Eretz Yisrael, and you pay one of the payments late, they will charge you ribbis. So they have included in the contract when you buy the apartment something called a heter iska. You go to a bank, and the bank is once again, the interest, of course, they're charging interest, they're paying interest, whatever the situation that you're doing with them. What's the heter? Where's interest coming in over here? And it says in Furish, Hebrew says ribbis. What's the heter? The answer is they have something called a heter iska. Okay, it's the Chavetz Chaim writes in the Sefer Avos Chesed. The Chavetz Chaim says anyone that lends money using a heter iska has to learn all of the halachas really clearly. It's very important to know all of the halachas that is nogay. Now the actual heter iska we don't find. You can learn all of Bab Metzia. You will not find a sugya in the Gemara that says, Tanu Rabbanon heter iska, like talking about a heter iska. In that case, we have a raya from the Gemara in Bab Metzia Daf Kuf Daled Amud Beis, where the Gemara talks about an idea like this. And this, by the way, is Nageya. People are signing heter iskas every single day, by the way, in business, in banks, in buying apartment, all the time, heter iska. So the Gemara talks about this, and this is just an idea to understand what it is. The idea, and by the way, it's not a magic word that if you say heter iska, you could do whatever you want. Chas v'shalom. It has to be done al pi halacha. There's a different neschoyos, there's different things of different poskim, how to write it, what to put inside it, whatever. But the idea of a heter iska is as follows, and it comes from the Gemara in Bab Metzia Kuf Daled Amud Beis, where the Gemara says, well, you have a business where one guy is investing money in the business, but he's not involved in the business decisions and the transactions. He's like the silent partner. He gives the money. Okay, wonderful. The other guy doesn't provide the money, necessarily all of it, some of it, whatever, but he's involved in the business transactions, in the decisions. He's on the ground. He's busy doing it. These are now partners. Now they're partners, we split the profits, because we're partners. You gave the money, I do the work. Beautiful, I have a silent partner, we can split the profits. Memela, a heter iska makes it, not that you're charging me ribbis. Pshat is that by me lending you the money, I'm now a partner in your business. So I become, so to speak, if I have a bank, for example, what happens? I'm lending the bank money. I become a partner in what the bank's doing with the money to invest it. Memela, the bank's going to pay me ribbis. That's okay, because we're partnership. Memela, we split the money. How it works, what to write in it, it's very complicated. It's not for now, but that's the basic idea. Rabbi, so we have to be careful whenever we do something to make sure that we're not over on the issa of ribbis, and everything stems from one thing, the emunah and betochen in the Rebbeinu Shalom that He is giving us a parnasa. Have an amazing day.